Looks like we're live. What's up? I'm going on a walk. It's actually a really beautiful day here today. I'm gonna go check out this one spot I like to go to up here. Holy Cities. It's still like a neighborhood, but back in the day, it was like this notorious sort of cult. It's what it's referred to as. There was this dude, I forget his name now. I should have done a little bit of research on it or whatever. I've researched it before, but I forget the guy's name. But he had like this supposed like cult of, it was like a religious cult. Holy City is what it was called. And apparently this dude had a bunch of women. There's rumors of it being like a racist thing where there was like, which I think is maybe true. There's like a white anti-black people racist sort of thing going on. And I have personal experience to reinforce that claim, because sorry, I'm kind of getting winded here. I just started walking. Nobody's even here yet, but perhaps nobody will come with me. It's okay. I need some exercise. It's like somebody cut up this redwood tree. It's a shame. There's a nice long piece right there. Cut some nice planks out of that thing. It's valuable wood. Look at all this. Just being left to whoever wants it. If I had a mill, I'd get on it. You can get a lot of planks out of this wood. There's a couple long pieces there. You can build yourself a little shed out of all this wood. Little tiny house. Nothing wrong with it. Nice wood. I wonder how old this tree was. 100 years. Seems too old for a tree this size, maybe though. Is each ring a year? I think it is. Yeah, it has to be like 100 years old then. I guess. I mean, it's like 10 rings. Close to 100 years old, probably. So just imagine how old some of these other ones are. I live in the thick of the redwoods here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. It's beautiful. Looks like somebody showed up. Right on. I'm not alone. It's beautiful here. It's a nice view coming up here. I'm looking towards San Jose down there. That's the valley, Silicon Valley, well, south of Silicon Valley, kind of close enough. Beautiful neighborhood. We're going to check out Holy City remains. I was talking about it a minute ago, but nobody was here then. It's like this alleged cult, religious cult from back in the day. I think in the mid 1900s sometime. I'm not quite sure the year, maybe earlier. I think earlier than that, actually. But it was like this dude who was like this religious figure. I forget his name. But apparently he had like a bunch of women. It was rumored that he had all these crazy women that had like flocked to his cult thing. It wasn't all women, but that's what some of the rumors were. Like all these crazy women left their husband and came to live with him. I guess back in the day, if you weren't faithful to your husband, they put you in a fucking loony bin. that was just how they treated women that didn't want to be faithful or whatever. It's pretty crazy. It seemed like the loony bin was like a real, like a staple of society back then. Like they had a lot of them. They built really nice ones, or really scary looking ones. It's a castle. No, it's a loony bin. A loony castle. So Holy City, there was like this sort of resort lodge type place. It was like the central hub of it all. And I guess it was rumored that they were sort of racist, or not sort of, that they were racist, white people against black people, I guess. And the reason I mention that is just, well, it's part of the story, but I found something back here one time that totally supports that idea, or that possibility, the rumor. I was out here hiking one day, and I'll show you here where I was. Actually, I'm coming pretty close to it, but I found these foundations, and it's sort of like you could tell it's been landscaped before. There's like little walls, and I think it was part of the whole lodge that I was just talking about. Sorry, I'm kind of winded, but so I was poking around. You know, I'm pretty sure it used to be part of all that, the lodge there. You'll see I'm almost there. It's not that far off the road. But I was poking around down there for a while, just looking for old relics or whatever. And I randomly found this old, like, dinner glass, or like whatever, like if you were like go to like a nice restaurant, they bring you a glass of ice water. It was in kind of like a nice tan colored glass, you know. And inside of this glass there was all this wax paper that was all bundled up. I looked hella old. And I pulled it out, and the wax paper was actually wrapped around this wax figurine of a black lady. It was like all black wax, and it was of a lady with long black hair. It was just all black, and it had a big sewing needle, like a big one, going right through its head, all the way through. And it freaked me out. I'm like, oh, this is some fucking voodoo shit. I couldn't help myself. I pulled the needle out. I don't know what I did, but I was like, I can't help myself. Somewhere somebody's headache went away. Like, oh, it just got better. Whoa. Okay, here we are. So I don't know, it could have been something that was just totally unrelated to all the rumors and legends of Holy City. But I think it was back here where the lodge was. Here we go. Turn the camera around. Pretty sure it was down in this area. I'll show you the walls I was talking about. See over here. Old concrete. And it runs out. And it's buried here, but you can see there's a rock wall there, the remains of a rock wall, and it's up there too. If you look under the brush there, you can see it runs over. And it's all throughout here. Keeps going. There's some more right here. Kind of hard to see, but it's an old rock wall, basically. It's either like cobblestones, maybe. It goes around another step there. Old wood. That looks pretty old. I don't know if that's from the actual lodge itself, but I think this foundation. Because look over here, there's some more remains here. I don't know what. It looks like some sort of like plaster. Over here, there's some more terrace, or like steps. And this to me looks like steps that would have gone down into the little creek down here. So I can just picture this back in the day. It was probably a nice little spot. Little rock walls, little garden, and then a stairway that went down into the creek. It's really hard to see in the camera, I'm sure. You can see there's like part of, like this is like old plaster or like part of a wall. You know, I'm breaking old ruins. There's more rocks, and you can see there were steps that came down here. Down this whole little spot right here, all the way down into the creek down there. And down in the creek, there's a bunch of old ruins of like it's like flagstone and other type construction rocks you would use if you're doing landscaping outdoors. But I was over on the other side of the creek when I found that wax figurine. I was over there. See, there's another wall right there. It's like, that's the real obvious one. Let's go down there. See, this whole creek bed was all, there was a whole wall that went up the creek. And this is like a big part of the ruins here. And then as you go down inside the creek, there's just nothing but old ruins, like old flagstone, and it's kind of like plaster type shit and kinds of rocks and things. But I'm gonna take you to this other spot. This really cool cobblestone wall. It's like a semicircle. It's really cool though. I'll show you. I'll be there in a few minutes. But that was the location over there where I found that wax figurine I was talking about. Pretty trippy. I actually kept the figurine for a while. I had it out in my little art studio. It was just sitting there. And it got really hot one day. And it melted. It got all warped. I think I ended up throwing it away. Shit was creepy though. This little building up here isn't like, I don't think it's one of the original Holy City buildings, but it's been totally abandoned. For a while it was Holy City Art Glass when I was a kid. This dude that used to live there, he blew glass and did art. He was super cool, and he was like a total conspiracy theorist dude. He was into UFOs and shit. I used to talk to him a lot. He actually gave me permission to go run around back here and build forts and do whatever I want, as long as I never got in trouble. As long as I never had the police show up or something. He said, I'll do whatever you want. So I did. I have a little spot back there where I still go that I think is really hard to find. I've never seen any evidence that anybody's ever found it. Because I keep stuff out there, you know, it's like a little spot I can go in case of an emergency or something. I need to hide out. It's a little hideout. And, you know, if somebody had seen it, if somebody had happened into it somehow, there's stuff out there they would have fucked with or taken, probably. But I've never seen any sign of anybody having found it. It's been there for a long time. I used to have tents out there. It was all set up where I could just go out there and camp out. I used to go out there with my dog. Camp out. People are always knocking this fucking mailbox. It happens like all the time. They come by with a baseball bat and whack it or something. Mailbox baseball. There's some old ruins up in there behind all those trees. We'll go there next, but we're gonna go to this cobblestone wall real quick. Almost there. But yeah, back up in behind Holy City, I used to grow a lot of weed. Had some rope swings. We had a campfire pit down there we used to go party at when I was in high school. We had a blast. The stall's still back there. Nobody goes and hangs out there anymore. I came back as an adult and cleaned up all the garbage that we had left as kids. So it's all nice now. There's no garbage. We'll go over here real quick. There's a cool little creek. And you can see more of this sort of thing where they're like they sort of lined the creek bed with like cobblestone. It's a lot of work. You can see some evidence of it there. Let's get down in here. See, it's all cobblestone. It's really nice rock. There's a wall that goes all up in there. I've hiked up in here and you see more evidence of it, but most of it's been taken, I think. Cobblestone's actually got some value. You pay like up to $30 per cobblestone. This wall I'm about to show you, there's got to be a few thousand of them. So if you thought about it, that's actually quite a bit of money. Maybe not that many, but at least 1,000, I'm thinking. I'm about to show you. You can tell me what you think. Got to go through the hole in the fence. Check this shit out. It wraps all the way around. Boom. Those are all cobblestones. Go down inside there. Shit's old too, man. It's like, I'm not quite sure how old, but it definitely is part of the old Holy City compound. Down right here. Check this shit out. I mean, it's like, dude, those are all cobblestones. I'd say there's a few thousand down here. That's my guess. I said each one of those, you pay up to like $30 for. These are legit cobblestones. Boom. It just goes and gets more tall. And I wonder how far down it goes too, below the ground. I'd imagine it probably does go a lot lower. Boom. A lot of cobblestone though. Crazy. I mean, we spent some time on this sucker. It wraps all the way around. Look at that. There's so many of them. Then it ends there and continues. It's just like concrete. What a trip. It's a crazy old wall though. They spent some time doing this. It's a trip. I'm not quite sure what it was for. They said there was like a zoo or like a museum or something. That's what it says in the old archives, but I don't know. Got some acoustics here. O-E-I-O-U. I'll show you the little, like, what's it? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know why I can't think of the word. like a little, what is the word? Not temple, but like, I can't think of the word. But it was like a dedication of sorts. Something you put on your mantle at home. What do they call it? Well, I'm lost right now. I can't think of the word. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. There's just some old random shit down here. What is the word? It's coming to me. It's on the tip of my tongue. Beautiful redwood circle, though. Look at this. Perfect example of a redwood circle. There must have been a big motherfucker right there, right in the middle. Big mama tree. No sign of it now. Redwood trees are awesome. There's some more rock wallage. Suppose we can poke our nose back here. There's nothing of too much interest back here, though, really. It's mostly just a fire road and a big pile of gravel. Some old tractors. But I don't want to fuck around or nothing. Let's just get back on the road there. I'll show you their spot. Fuck around and find out. Up here real quick. Yeah. Sorry about that. Still alive yet. I'm gonna set the phone down for a sec. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna show you that spot across the street. I think the spot across the street is where the museum was supposed to be. I can't remember if it was a museum or a zoo. It's really random for like a small little town like Dash Colt. You can look it up online. It's Holy City, California. Put the zip code in my title. There's some trippy old rumors, information about the whole place. And there used to be these huge wooden statues that were right there in front of that building that I showed you when we were walking up. My grandpa has pictures of when he used to drive. This used to be the only way to Santa Cruz, this road right here, before they built Highway 17. The only road over the mountains, that is. And prior to that, they had a train, which I'm going to do a live stream. I'm going to show you the old train tunnels. Okay, we're going up here to check out this old zoo, or whatever, museum. It's a trip. Nothing too advanced or anything like that. Just old ruins. Let's see, how could I get down in there? I don't know, there's nothing very impressive about this stuff here. Really, it's just old, dilapidated structures. Shrine, yeah, I think that's the word I was looking for. Yes, thank you. Shrine, that's what it was. Thanks. Relief. I can go around this way, I see. I should come up here and tag this shit. Flat Earth. In fact, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't think I've written anything on this. I should have brought a pen. Let's see. KYEW QKU job. CRISPR. No. Prosper. Oh, it said fuck you. That's what it said. I get it. It's FUK. You. Fuck you. Okay. And it says fort and it's crossed out. Not a fort. What is the other? Something. Right, something. I'm gonna come up here and spray paint some art on this. It'd be cool. Maybe I'll do that later. Fort. This is not a fort. There's another. What is it? What does that say? Pepper ginger. Pepper ginger. Pecker and ginger. Is that what it says? Pecker and ginger. Oh, it's probably two people. Pecker and ginger. Yeah, I get it. Or is that N? Oh, that N's is part of the W. Never mind. Never mind. Pecker ginger. Fuck you, Pecker ginger. This is not a fort. Something. Prosper job. Job and prosper. SCMB. It's supposed to be. What is that? What is that? SCM maybe. Because our tag from when I was growing up is SCMB. Santa Cruz Mountain Boys. SCMB. It's right there. Juices. The juices. I can't read that. The Santa Cruz Mountain Boys. That's who we are. Well, I might walk back down. I'm going to discuss some flat earth stuff that I think needs to be discussed. I discuss it all the time. I discuss it to a point of disgust because no one else discusses what I discuss. And it disgusts me that nobody wants to discuss what I discuss. So I'm going to discuss it much more than I normally do. I'll discuss much of the undiscussed stuff that disgusts me and never gets discussed much. I have a lot of stuff I want to discuss that no one else wants to discuss, so I'll discuss it as much as I can. And it's really easy to figure this stuff out, really, as far as the Earth being flat. It's not like flat, but you know what I mean, like it's not a ball. It's got like terrain. It's got like, the Earth is how it presents itself to you. That's all you need to know. Next time someone's trying to explain your objective reality to you, just be like, why would you want to do that? The reason I'm doing it is because I feel like it's been misdescribed to you to where there's certain things that people are assuming is happening when it's pretty silly. We're just assuming that we're spinning around and orbiting while everything remains undisturbed from any of this motion. Can't be detected by any degree of any instrument. Our most sensitive instruments can't detect any of this motion that's allegedly happening, although they say it's just because it's so constant and steady and slow, or whatever excuses they can come up with. All the same, it's been going at that motion for billions of years through a frictionless environment. There's a bunch of other stuff floating around out there, spinning around too, but it's also gradual, but it's really fast. But it's all like relative. You get sort of lost in the sauce, you know? It's like, well, I guess you're right. It must be happening since you know the science. But really, it's just all observational science. And there's no like, they say there's physics that explains it, but really all we have is what we're working with. All we have are the answers. The questions are what's harder to find. Like, why do things fall? Are they really falling, or is the ground rising up to meet them? Could it be either or? Can't be both. Well, is that something we really need to figure out? I guess not. But as to the shape of the surface of the Earth, as if it were to form one shape, a surface is a two-dimensional thing. I mean, it's got two dimensions, right? Now, if it were to have three dimensions, that's when you get the depth, I guess it would be volume with a sphere. Is that what the third dimension on a sphere is? It's like inside the sphere. You have the surface, and you have the depth, and the volume. You can tell I'm not that smart, but you don't have to be that smart. Just think about this shit. All right, so on the surface of the Earth, if you go to walk around something, there's a certain amount of distance that you walk. Let's say I'm walking in a circle right now. I'm walking around a certain specific area on the Earth's surface. There's a certain amount of area within that perimeter I just walked. Now, you think of it as though you're spiraling outward, or just think about the more distance you walk before you come all the way back around, the more area that's within that perimeter that you walked. Now, it just gets bigger. Like the more you walk before you come back to where you started, the more area that you're circling. And we could just go on like that indefinitely. A bigger piece of property has a bigger perimeter around it. It's really quite simple. That's all you need to know, really. And it just goes like that indefinitely. More area, bigger perimeter. It might seem like this is off subject or something right now if you haven't heard me talk about it before, but if you have, then you know exactly what I'm saying. It's like we just have a vast expanse here that we have to work with, you know? And thinking about a piece of property is a good way of looking at it, because it's pretty basic. You have a property line, and you have the area within that. It's your property, and it has a property line. I use the example of like if you're building an empire and like you wanted to expand evenly in every direction with your castle right in the middle. So you're just widening your property, your perimeter, and you want to remain right in the middle of your perimeter as it widens evenly in every direction. And it will get to a point where it's so wide that you have like a team of people helping you go out and you know, roam, walk the whole perimeter and take down data for what you now own, like what places that you have inside your perimeter now as it's expanding evenly in every direction. And it would get so wide and so vast after a while, you'd need a whole crew of people out there taking data. There'd be so much data that they have to bring back to you as you're always expanding. And so you're always encompassing more and more Earth, more and more places. Like in this thought experiment, you can take place in real life. You know, it's like there'd be different countries you're going through, different states, different parts of, you know, the world, different oceans. If you just kept it a perfect circle, for instance, it doesn't have to be a circle, but it's a good way of looking at it because we're talking about a spherical Earth. If that circle that you're making expanded as wide as 25,000 miles in circumference, that's the biggest circle you can make on our globe Earth per the measurements they've given us. And it's encompassing half the Earth. I've heard some globers tell me, no, it's encompassing the whole Earth. But that's not true, because if that circumference was our property line, we wouldn't own the whole Earth, we'd own half of the Earth. They say the equator is a straight line, by the way, but I beg to differ, because if you start with a circle, I believe you'll end with a circle. It'll just be really big. But that's where flat earthers, I feel like that's where we have the upper hand right there, because we're supposed to believe that our circle would only widen so wide as 25,000 miles in circumference. And now these circles that we're making, they have to start getting smaller. So the only way that can happen is if we start circling a different area. See, it's really fucked up. Most people don't think about the Earth as being a 3D object. Honestly, they don't think it through to this extent. How are you going to make a smaller circle around the outside of another circle? You're not. So technically, after you pass the median, that next circle has to be circling a different area. You're no longer circling what you've been circling prior to that. Now you're circling area that you haven't acquired. And that's where this really fucks people's heads up. They just get lost at that point, because it doesn't really check out, honestly. I don't think that's what would happen. I don't think your circle would ever go. I think your circle would always be circling your castle all the way out. I don't think there would ever come a time where you're no longer circling your castle. Now you're circling property that you haven't acquired yet. And if that were to happen, if we were to actually see that reality, then I would have to say flat Earth was falsified. Because at the point where you acquired that last piece, that last circle that you hadn't acquired yet, then you've gone everywhere there is to go. There's nowhere else to go. And the only way to explain that is a spherical Earth. But that's never been done. But what I'm saying is I don't think it can be done. I don't think that's what you would see. I think if you start a circular piece of property with your castle right in the middle, and you expand evenly in every direction, that your castle will always be right in the middle of the circle you're making, however big it gets, until you run out of space to expand into. I don't think there'll ever come a time where you're now circling something else. You're now making a circle that your castle is no longer in the middle of. I don't think that's what we would see happen. I think it's pretty silly to think that would happen, actually. Like, I think if you make a circle on the surface of the Earth and you start expanding evenly in every direction with your castle right in the middle, I think that your castle will always be in the middle of that circle you're making, however big it gets. I don't think there'll ever come a time where now you realize all of a sudden that you're no longer circling your castle, you're circling property that you don't own. And your perimeter is shrinking. This perimeter that you had that went around your property that was so freaking massive and long is now shrinking because you're no longer circling your property, you're circling property you don't own. That's what we'd have to believe would happen on a globe Earth. Yeah, I don't think that's what would happen. I tend to believe it would just get wider. I think the vast expanse of Earth just widens. Obviously, that's what we'd see. That's what I mean. It's just that we're supposed to think something else happens at a certain width, like that we wouldn't be able to expand any wider, even though there's more Earth beyond that. And it's this idea that we're being held to the outside of a ball, so wherever we go, we're on the top of it, and like, so it'll just be like overlapping, or I don't know what it is we're supposed to think would happen, but I think if we can make a perimeter around any place on Earth, we should be able to make a perimeter around the whole known world. There has to be a certain amount of square miles, you know. To think that it closes back up, that's where I get lost. I don't think that's what would happen. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think it's a good point too. I think it's like the point, really. Because it's the point that, like, if people really think this through, it's where it really starts to seem silly. Like, if you really put the thought into it that's required, you realize that it's impossible. because you're never going to be able to, like, say you have the biggest perimeter that you can make on the Earth, and now you're supposed to make a smaller perimeter after you go past that. How are you going to put a smaller perimeter around the outside of another perimeter? It's it's not possible. What are you going to do? How are you going to make it shrink? It's just, it doesn't, it's not, it's not how reality is. I say the circles just get bigger. And it's silly to think that anything else would happen, really. If I have to think that, then that's where I have to depart from what I know to be reality. Which is funny because people like to say that about flat Earth, but like, really, I mean, they don't really think of the Earth as being a globe. If you catch people off guard with that thought experiment, they always give you the right answers, which is like, I have a few riddles I've designed that that basically prove to people they think of the Earth the same way as flat Earthers do. Hold on, I gotta get a drink. I'll be right back. Yeah, because people, if they're not busy thinking that you're trying to like lead them into a flat Earth discussion, if you just catch them off guard, if you just start saying like, oh, I got a riddle, you want to hear the riddle, and with no like prelude to like flat Earth discussion, just catch people off guard with it. Be like, if you were given the North Pole, the circle at the North Pole as your property, and told that you won the concentric circle lottery, and this is where like you own the circle at the North Pole is however many miles around or whatever, and you're allowed to step outside of your property, make a new circle around the outside of your other piece of property that you had already, and now that's your new property line, and you can just keep doing this indefinitely, so your property keeps getting wider and wider and wider. You think that if you just kept making these circles, one right outside the other one, like that, indefinitely, all variables aside, that you would eventually own the whole world? Mind you, you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. But as you can see, you draw in a circle around the outside of your previous circle, they just get wider, right? Right. So do you think if you kept doing that indefinitely, all variables aside, that you would eventually own the whole world, starting at the North Pole, moving outward, Do you think that eventually that circle would you would own the whole world? Mind you, you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. I think most people that think about it, they're like, well, yeah, of course. Sure, why wouldn't you? Expanding up from the North Pole, you just make a new circle around the outside of the previous one. They get bigger and bigger. And they're thinking in their mind, they're thinking the globe Earth, They're thinking, okay, the circles just come all the way down, and then you've encompassed the whole world. Yeah, of course, you would own the whole world at some point if you just, all variables aside. And they forget, even if you emphasize it a couple times, mind you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. If you catch them off guard with this, usually they'll give you what I think is the correct answer, which is yes, eventually you would own the whole world, but not for the reason that they think. It's like, because I believe the circles just get wider indefinitely. But here on the globe Earth, once you hit the median, say if you start at the North Pole, that would be the equator. That's the biggest circle you're going to have on the globe Earth. So that's the most you'll ever own in this thought experiment, because after that, the circles start getting smaller. And, most Glovers are going to come at you and be like, oh no, you still have all that you circled prior to that, but now you're just circling the property you don't own. And that's where I say, nope. In this thought experiment, you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. So at the point where your circles are getting smaller, your property's getting smaller. You'll never be circling something you don't own in this thought experiment. And that's where you get fucked off, because you realize that the most you would own in this thought experiment is half the world. You'll never own the whole world because your circles start to get smaller after you go past the equator. And they want to make it seem like, well, no, you still have all that property you had before. Your circles are just getting smaller because you're circling the property you haven't acquired yet. Sorry, in this thought exercise, you only get to keep what's inside of the last circle you drew. Think that one through. Because in that regard, you'll never be circling something you don't own. So that answer doesn't check out. After you pass the equator and you make your next circle, you lose all that property you had prior to that. And now you're circling a different area. And now if you keep going south, making circles like you've been doing the whole time, they get smaller and smaller. So you're losing property every time. So you would have had to stop at the equator if you wanted to own as much as you could own. That's a fucked off riddle, but I like it because it really makes you look at the globe model for what it is. Most people, probably just about everybody, will never think of or treat the Earth as a sphere, the Earth's surface. They'll never actually think of it as a sphere. Like, when it comes to like practical, like intuitive interaction, because nobody would have seen that coming if they hadn't heard that riddle before. It doesn't make sense. But I mean, the riddle makes sense, but it turns the globe model on its fucking head, and it just makes you look at it and go, whoa, wait, what? How is that even possible? How could you have a circle that expands so wide that all of a sudden it's not a circle anymore? It's circling something else now. That doesn't make any sense, dude. That's not what would happen. I mean, I guess you could say that's what would happen if we lived on a sphere, but you can't use that as your proof of a sphere. It doesn't make sense. It's backwards thought. It's like, well, we know that's what would happen because Earth is a sphere. Well, no, you can't say that proof of the Earth being a sphere is that Earth is a sphere. What my thought experiment is doing is showing you that you don't even really think of the Earth as being a sphere, and that it really can't be a sphere when you think about it, because the wider of an expanse you get, the bigger the perimeter. You're never going to get a different result. That's not possible. If you were ants on a basketball, we have nothing we can compare this to. What we're told to believe is the big picture. There's nothing that we can look at and say, yeah, it's kind of like that. Ants on a basketball, well, they know when they're on the bottom, they got to hold on tighter. We have nothing we can point to in nature and say, look, it's just like this. No, there's nothing like it. It's the big picture. Yeah, but it's so big that you could just paint it however you want. Nobody's ever going to see it or have to even. Nobody ever has to even know that information. To live here, you don't have to know anything about motion or curvature. That's just moot point. It's useless information. I know there's people that would argue with me about that. Well, what about people that put satellites up in the sky and all this business? From what I know, satellites orbit east to west with the rotation of the Earth. The thing is, that's where the circles are. If you're going to do an orbit, you're going to have to go east to west, circles around, correcting to the north, right? That's flat Earth. If you want to circumnavigate north to south, that's when you start having something to throw at me and say, well, how's this happening? And that's when I would have to start scratching my head. But like, as of right now, the very few north to south circumnavigations we had to look at are fraudulent, provided to you by liars, in my opinion. You would think that we'd have more of that going on if Earth was a globe. There wouldn't be like a favored. I mean, because we're supposed to believe that the rotation doesn't really affect any of us down here on, like we're planes and helicopters, and because we can see that we can hover in a helicopter and the Earth doesn't rotate underneath you. So it's like we don't have to account for that while we're within the Earth frame of reference. So there technically shouldn't be any reason why there's no north-south circumnavigation. We should see plenty of. There should just be any which way. The flight routes should show the shortest route. There should be north-south circumnavigation, but all the flight routes show east-west as far as just the circle routes, and any like most intercontinental flights in the southern hemisphere have to cross over the equator to get to where they're going. From intercontinental southern flights, where it's like they shouldn't have to cross the equator. There's no northern flights, intercontinental northern flights that have to cross the equator to get to where they're going. But if you think about the flat Earth, the equator is just a big circle, and so the southern areas are on the outside of that circle, so they have to cross the equator to get to where they're going. It makes sense. On a ball, you wouldn't see so much crossing the equator with intercontinental southern flights, but there's most of the intercontinental southern flights cross the equator because there is no north-south circumnavigation. That's not a thing. Not with satellites, not with air traffic, not with anything. Oh, because Antarctica's so cold and there's just so many penguins and it's dangerous. And why is Antarctica the anomalous place on Earth? Like, the one place that, it's not a country is because you can't be a country because it's just like, it's the most hostile environment. There's no life there. There's not even bugs. There's just nothing. It's just, you don't live there. It's just God's message is clear. Like, this is not where you come to live. There's no life here. And like, that's kind of anomalous. There's not many places on Earth where you can say that, where it's just like, it doesn't welcome any life. Not even like small little bugs, nothing. There's nowhere else on Earth that's like that. I wouldn't want to fly over that either. That doesn't, it doesn't prove Earth's flat, but to me, it kind of does. It gives you the impression that there is a limit, there is a perimeter, a final perimeter that you don't really go beyond. Be out of your mind to try to do that. That's why I think if you were to do my thought exercise and start at the North Pole and expand outward, the perimeter would get wider and wider, like all the way out until you get to Antarctica. I mean, this is what all flat earthers believe, is that it just gets wider. My whole thought is people already intuitively have understood that, but it's the point that really needs to be emphasized, though, in my opinion, because people just accept that that's what would happen. They don't really think it through to the point where it's like, that's really silly to think that an outward expanding perimeter would start to close back up, that you could make a smaller perimeter around the outside of what it doesn't make sense, dude. It's not possible. I know it would be possible if you lived on a ball and gravity and everything. That's the thing. It's like, it would be true if everything they say is true. It's not how we do science, though. You have to prove it. We can't prove anything. Well, then what the fuck are we talking about? I just, I'm not going to believe. I want to know. And that's the deal with the globe Earth. You start realizing, you're like, well, it turns out I just have to believe. Like, there's 24-hour suns. That could only happen on a globe. Really? For real? So you're saying that, like, because of what you're seeing in the sky, like, we don't have, that's just observational, man. We don't know that the sky operates the way, and we don't know. We just are guessing. We can't say for sure. Besides, we're still in the same situation with all that as we were as before. It's like the only real video evidence of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica that exists is being provided by sketchy globers with a fucking agenda. So we're not really any further along than we were before, unfortunately. I mean, like, if Witsit wanted to start providing some of his data that he said he'd acquired, I mean, maybe I might sing a different tune, but right now we're just stuck with the same situation we were in before, which is the only video evidence of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica that showed up after Flat Earth came along and pointed out that there was no evidence, mind you. That's a huge part of this. There was no evidence before Flat Earth came along and said, hey, look, there's no evidence. And then some evidence started popping up and it was proven to be fake. But now, it's like, but now still we're in the same situation. The only video evidence of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica is being provided by sketchy globers with an agenda that you can't trust. So I mean, I don't trust McToon or McKeegan or Mc whatever. Mcism. I just don't trust them. They're sketchy and they're mean. They're like hostile. Well, not really, not Dave McKeegan, but still, he is kind of, he's sort of snarky. Whatever. The point being, like, they have incentive to like provide you that information. It might be true. I don't know. It kind of seems to make sense, really, when you think about the fact that the days get longer the further south you go during their summer. It almost kind of mirrors the north in that way. But like, dude, that's such grandiose. Like, I can't think. I mean, I have to go down there and travel to really see it for myself. But there's enough flat earthers down there. I think we would have figured this out by now. There shouldn't be any question. I mean, how many hours? It's like Punta Arenas supposedly has like 17 hours a day, like direct sun. That does kind of lean towards the 24-hour sun. Like the further south you go from there, you think there'd be even more sun. So that is pretty crazy. You think about it. But we don't know what the sun is. We just can guess. I think the sun is source. It's where we all draw our spark of life from. It's not God, it's God's sun. And we draw our source right from that direct. That's the main source of light. Our souls, our spirit is a light that can be physically seen. Visibly. And that light, well, where do you draw light from? Well, the source of light is the sun. It's the source of life and light. The light at the end of the tunnel. Like if you don't go to heaven, you go back to the sun, the source, to recycle and come back again. I think we've already had a whole sun's worth of souls that have come through and gone to heaven. And that's why we have all the stars up there. And we have the old sun floating around up there that's no longer holding any source left in it. It still can be charged up. It still absorbs sunlight, and it can be charged up and it glows. But it doesn't have that. There's no souls being drawn forth from it anymore. It doesn't have that. It's been completely drained. You can spot an old sun really easily by the fact that it's all cratered, because those craters are where when the sun was all boiling and bubbling, popping, hot, fucking whatever it is, plasma fluid, and then it's forced to go cold and quickly in an instant. It solidifies. All the places where the bubbles were popping on the surface, they become these craters, where it's like all these pop marks all over the whole surface where the bubbles were popping. So if you see a cratered, like glowing plasma thing floating through the sky, it's an old sun that's been drained of all its source. When it gets drained, the earth knows to give birth to a new sun right out the North Hole. It breaks off an umbilical cord, just like a person being born. Activates and it goes way up in the sky. Life. On the old sun, you can see its belly button where it was attached to the umbilical cord at one point. It's on the bottom. You can see an obvious belly button where it broke off when it first activated. It's plain as day. You just look at it and say, oh, that's a belly button. That's what it is. Yep. Every new soul that's spawned on Earth has a corresponding sunspot right where that soul used to be. But souls are always going back to source, back into that lake of fire. Or to heaven. That doesn't happen so often these days, but I'm sure it does here and there. But the thing is, there was all those stars that are up there now are souls that have gone to heaven. That's a whole sun's worth of souls that we see up there. I think we're on our second sun. The second coming. There's still a lot of souls left in the sun. Indeed. That's why they're the same size, the old sun and the new sun. Because they're the same thing. It's just this one's been drained. You can tell when you look at it. It's like it's old. It's beautiful, but it's like it's been weathered. It's been around a long time. You can tell its original purpose is spent, but it's still a beautiful thing that's up in the sky, and it's part of nature. It's part of our reality. All those stars that you see twinkling in the background beyond it, that all used to be there within it. It was all part of its original composition. We're all, there's ancient tribes on Earth now. There's people whose ancient ancestors recall a time when there was no what we call a moon, when there was no moon in the sky. Those people were drawing their souls from our moon. Now it's the old sun. They remember a time when there was no moon, and that was before the first sun was all used up. Those were people that were like from the first time around. So I imagine they somehow were able to transfer that information along. Whether, because I think when the first sun was drained, there was still plenty of souls alive down here on the earth. They probably saw that the sun was about to go, and so they got ready for it. Or either that, or they were just completely reset, But who knows? I don't know. I'm just making all this shit up, but I think it's cool. It's what everybody else does. You might as well make up your own story. You just take all the observations and information you have to work with and just start making a story. I've seen pictures of that North Hole. It's pretty interesting. And I've heard tell of it too. What is there a hole in the... What the fuck, man? It's got to be for something. The grand hole from which this cycle began. When you think about it, the sun starts right there. Boom. It's when it first starts making its thing. Its circuit comes all the way out and back again. The globe model does have a lot going for it with the two poles. It's pretty brilliantly crafted, I gotta say. And the whole thing with the tilt and the wobble and all that, it's like you can go see the analemma. You can go take note of the fact the sun isn't moving in a straight line over the course of the year. It's got a wavy pattern, which is why you can't go to the poles and see the sun just sit in one spot above your head. It's making a circle because we're tilted, so we're wobbling. So it's not just sitting in one spot. And if you think about it, Polaris is way above all of that, and it's making a little teeny, itsy bitsy circle. It's the same circle, but it's just further away. That tilt and that wobble, it's like the whole sky is doing it. So you can see why they might come to the conclusion that perhaps it's us that's doing it. It's not completely illogical, but it's just, there's so much other shit that comes with it that it's like, that can't be proven, So, I mean, if it's just basically observational, like, it could be either or, and because of the fact that I don't think we've been able to prove, that's why there's no north-south circle. There's certain pieces of information that that scream in the face of that model, It's like the fact you'd give an award to somebody for having circumnavigated north to south and they did no such thing. That implies there's some deception going on here. And there's plenty of other instances where we've seen deception, obviously the space presentation from the space agencies of the world, they've failed big time. As far as oh, here's a picture of Earth from space, it's like every one of those photographs, we've all seen them. They're fucking, it's garbage, dude. It's total garbage. It's not true. It's not real. It's like we've seen enough pictures of Earth from space by now where we should all be able to agree that we obviously live on a fisheye lens. It's just obvious. It's a fact. What do we got here? Schneider, what's up, my friend? It's like believing in Santa Claus. Yeah, it is. Because it's something that you can't see. It's just told to you. You can see evidence of Santa Claus, But it turns out it's just stuff that people are putting there to look like evidence. It's not really evidence. No, I guess the globe has better evidence when you think about it, like all that shit I just explained. It's evidence, but it's circumstantial evidence. It's not proof. Like they say kinematics or whatever, it could be this or that. It's not, there's no proof of the dynamics of it, the actual cause of what we're seeing. It's just simply observational. I mean, once the people that support the globe model can finally just come clean and just say that's a fact, we'll get a lot further in this conversation. Because then they at least give us the space to make our point, which is like Earth could be just how it's presenting itself. A sky that can be maybe modeled with a globe, but we sure can't prove the globe Earth since it hasn't been done yet. There's so many reasons why it hasn't been proven, because it just can't be proven, because it isn't a globe, in my opinion, which is more of like a factual based opinion than theirs is. Because to believe that we have nothing we can point at to say it's like that. There's nothing in nature that we can say, look, there's creatures that can live on the outside of a ball and none of them fall off or feel like that they're upside down. Or we don't have any evidence of that to point to and say, look, it's like that. You have to say that, okay, when you get to the big picture, everything's totally different than what we're used to. There's a whole different, I mean, I could just as easily say, well, the heavens are a completely different reality than what we have down here. I'd rather say that than to accept the whole globe model as being reality. Because it's true, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have access to the sky. We don't know what's going on up there. We just know that there's a very reliable pattern taking place, cycles, which imply circles, which imply enclosure and limits. I don't necessarily believe in an infinite plane, but I do believe in an infinite plane, but I believe the realm we inhabit has limits, which is kind of hard to it's kind of hard to make an argument against, really, because I mean, but at the same time, it's like we don't really know the heavens. I mean, we just know what we've been observing. For all we know, there's like nodes, and then there's another realm right next to it or something, and like who knows. I like to think of an infinite plane as making sense to me because where something ends, something else begins. And what you know, maybe there's no life out there. Maybe this is the only pocket of life. Hi, hummingbird, and look how close he is. Let me see if I can catch this. Oh, he went off over there. He was right in my face. I love hummingbirds. They're so cute. They kind of scare me when they get right in my face, though. Anyways, I think I'm gonna close this stream and I'm gonna come back on, but I'm just gonna play some music. But thanks for hanging out with me. Like I said, there's only a couple of you. I'll be back on here in just a minute. I'm just gonna play some guitar on a separate stream here. Let's see, how do I end this one? Okay. Love you guys. Hope you show back up.